Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today is the 15th of May and it is Hyperemesis Gravidarum Day, Awareness Day. And I thought I would talk to you about my experience of having hyperemesis with both children. Someone's just woken up from a nap and I thought I was going to video this when she was asleep, but it hasn't quite worked out that way. There's people outside doing gardening, so if you hear any noises, and Tom and Robin are downstairs messing around and you can hear them screaming. So it's a perfect ideal quiet time to film a video, but never mind, this is what happens. So today is the 15th of May, so it's Hyperemesis Gravidarum Awareness Day. Not many people will know about hyperemesis unless you have had it yourself. So before I get into the proper details of hyperemesis, I am not a doctor. This is my experience that I have had twice now with both my children. It's just me talking to you about hyperemesis and trying to make more awareness of what it is. So what is it? Hyperemesis gravidarum is the extreme, it's at the extreme end of pregnancy sickness. What is HG? HG is being sick multiple times a day, 30, 40, 50 times a day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, or even all through the night as well. It's feeling nauseous all day long, it's vomiting all day long, it's being dehydrated because you cannot keep anything down. Anything you literally take through your mouth, it comes straight back up again. I won't call it Hyperemesis gravidarum anymore. I'm just going to call it HG for short because it's just an absolute mouthful otherwise. So I was working full time when I first had HG, and I was a support care worker for children who were very poorly. So I had to be on top of my game. I had to look after these children when I was not feeling in the best of myself. I had never called in sick a day before I fell pregnant, and then the sickness days just kept on coming and coming and coming. There was nothing that I could do to help. Luckily for me, it stopped when I was 21, 22 weeks pregnant, and then my pregnancy obviously went on to being normal, which was amazing. So HG came around for the second time for this little lady. I was 4 weeks gone and I was started to be sick. I hadn't actually taken a pregnancy test and I knew it. I knew that it had I knew what it was the minute I was sick that first time. And I said to Tom, I said that we need to go and get a pregnancy test because I have a feeling that we are pregnant. And I was scared. I was scared for what was to come. I knew how bad it was with Robin, but I didn't quite realise how bad it could have got, or how bad it did get with Isabel. We were living in a city at the time. I was working full-time again as a nanny. I had Robin with me all day, every day. So we were living in a city and I had to drive to work every morning, which normally took me about half an hour, but I had to keep pulling over to be sick, so it was taking longer to obviously get to work. I was working at work and I was having to be sick all the time. It was 30 times a day I was being sick, and I lost a stone in my second pregnancy. So when I was pregnant with Izzy, I lost a stone. When I was pregnant with Robin, so my first pregnancy, I lost 2 stone in the first 20 weeks of pregnancy. So with Isabel's hyperemesis, it was really bad. It was worse than the first time. I was prepared for it, but wasn't quite prepared for what was to come. I think when you have a little child running around, as well as then trying to be sick, well, not trying to be sick, trying to look after yourself while you're being sick all the time, it's just hard. So the difference between morning sickness and HG is the weight loss. If you lose a certain amount of weight, it then classes as HG. it's also different to morning sickness, as this could start from like the minute you get pregnant right the way through until you give birth. There's no, some ladies have it less, some ladies have it more. So for me to be able to get through both my pregnancies, I was on anti-sickness medication from the minute I started being sick right the way until I was, what, about 30 weeks, I would say, because then I wasn't too scared to come off the medication to see whether or not it had stopped, and luckily for me it had stopped, so that was amazing. So the doctors haven't got a clue how the known causes of HG. It is linked to the changing hormones that occur in your body during pregnancy. Unfortunately, if you have HG in your first pregnancy, you are bound to get it in all your others. It is not hereditary because my mum never had it, her mum never had it, anything like that. I'm the first person in our line of females to get it. HG started in my first pregnancy, quite mild to start with. I was just having what I thought was normal pregnancy morning sickness. I was just sick. I felt really nauseous all the time. I'd get up and I'd feel dizzy. I'd have that horrible taste in my mouth. I was sick after eating certain foods, but I wasn't sick after having fluids. Later on in the pregnancy, later on, a couple of weeks, I then started being sick as having fluids. I had 3 hospital admittances. Is that the right word? I was admitted into hospital 3 times when having my first child, all overnight, all IV fluids, because I was dehydrated as I hadn't kept any fluids or any food down for 3 days. There were some days that I couldn't even get out of bed because every time I moved I was just sick. There was days I stayed in the toilet all day long. It was absolutely vile. There's no other words to describe it. It makes you so depressed. You can't. Everyone dreams of this amazing pregnancy where, you know, you're meant to feel so good, your hair's meant to glow, you're meant to enjoy being pregnant, and unfortunately people with hyperemesis cannot enjoy pregnancy. It just doesn't work out for them. So in going back to obviously going to hospital, having my hospital admittances, I would go in and they would do like an IV. I would get IV fluids, I would get IV sickness medication, and after about a day I would feel on top of the world. I was like nil by mouth until the sickness drugs would work, and then once they were working, then I would eat so much food I would feel sick because I've eaten so much food. It was amazing. It was such a relief to be able to do that. But I knew that it wasn't going to last for long, so I would try and eat as much as I possibly could, which probably wasn't the best idea in the world, but I done it anyway. So after the first day, I would then be discharged from hospital because I was eating and I was keeping it all down, which is great. They used to send me home with anti-sickness drugs, which I would obviously continue to take, and because I had food inside me and I was like, my sickness was under control, I would be able to keep the tablets down, but not for very long. I would keep them down for about a week. Some cases, other times it was less than a week. But yeah, I would keep taking the sickness tablets, and till I couldn't take them anymore, and I got into that little vicious circle where I would have to be readmitted back into hospital, have IV fluids because I was dehydrated, have IV anti-sickness drugs because I couldn't keep any of the fluids down, so then I would get better and I'd feel better and I'd eat lots, and then they'll discharge me from hospital. Then I would continue to take my anti-sickness drugs orally until they didn't work anymore, and then it just went round and around and around. It wasn't just food that would set me off or fluids that would set me off, it would be smells. My first, I cannot quite remember because it was like 3 years ago now. I cannot remember what it was that used to trigger it with her, but with my second, it was smells of anything set me off. I think I was at work one day and The smell of the hand washing soap set me off. I couldn't stop. I couldn't brush my teeth with my second pregnancy because it would set me off, because the taste was just horrible. We lived in a city when I was pregnant with my second child, and we would walk up past like the meat markets and the fish markets. I couldn't do it. It was just horrible. I walked into Lidl and the smell of the fresh baking would just set me off. The other thing that I also had in both the pregnancies was the saliva. For some odd weird reason, and it's just like a common thing with hyperemesis, is you just get excess saliva, and obviously swallowing it like you normally would do would be absolutely fine, but when you had hyperemesis you can't swallow it because it would make you sick, so you'd have to keep spitting it out all the time. Second pregnancy, I ended up having to quit my job. It was horrible. The second time round was worse than the first time round. It just takes everything away from you. Unfortunately, when people say that they feel sick when they're pregnant, they come up with all these wonderful magical potions that are going to help you make better. Eat ginger biscuits, you'll be fine. Drink ginger tea, you'll be fine. You know, smell peppermint. Have snacks at the side of your bed when you first wake up in the morning. I had it all. I had everybody telling me what I should do to stop me from being sick. Unfortunately, nothing worked, and obviously it's not common things. You can't find loads of people that have had it. So I ended up going onto internet and finding like HG awareness groups to help you talk to someone, because it's hard to talk to normal people that haven't had it because they can't understand what it is like. Hyperemesis didn't attack you, I would say, for every day. There would be things called fluffy days where you would still feel pretty rubbish, you'd still feel really like nauseous, but you could get up and you could go and have a glass of water, you could go and have a piece of toast and not feel as bad as you had felt the day before. So in both the pregnancies, I know you're very like you have to be really careful about what you can drink and what you can't drink, what you can eat and what you can't eat, but the only thing that on my fluffy days I would able to keep down, and to a certain point towards like the end of the hyperemesis stage for me, was cherry Coke. Cherry Coke was the only thing that I could drink, and I would go 3-4 days just drinking cherry Coke. No, nothing else to eat, but that would be the only thing that would keep down for me. I feel like hyperemesis for me has taken away my pregnancies. I wasn't able to enjoy it, and when I wasn't able to enjoy it, it was too late because it was already almost finished. So I am planning to have more children later on in life, but until both Izzy and Robin are at school, I am not going to be having any children. I think I personally have made, I think both Tom and I are both on the same understanding that I need the children to be self-sufficient to a certain point for me to be able to have another child, because I've had 2 hyperemesis children before. My next pregnancies will be hyperemesis children as well. I need to make sure that the kids are able to like get breakfast in the morning, or to help to some sort of certain extent, and I could drop them off at school and then be poorly when they were at school, so it doesn't quite affect them too much. Not that it's going to stop. Oh dear. Not that I'm going to stop being poorly when they come home from school, but it's just going to make life a little bit easier for me in terms of how I can cope. So if you have got hyperemesis and you are watching this, stay strong. You can do it, because this is what happens at the end of it. This is your prize. I have 2 HG children, and they are obviously, children are the most amazing thing in the world, but I think personally I managed to battle through it, because I know at the end you have the most amazing gift ever. Oh dear. you have the most amazing gift ever anyone could ever wish for you.